Ryan's over there trying to cut the mayor seat already.
When this cheetah color gets going, I'm going up.
I'll confirm. Yeah.
We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order on June 30th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Welcome to our meeting. This is an open meeting of the Grand Island City Council. The City of Grand Island abides by the Opens Meeting Act in conducting business. A copy of the Opens Meeting Act is displayed in the back of this room as required by state law. Now I'll proceed with the pledges of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A sign-up sheet was available in the lobby for individuals wishing to provide input on any of tonight's agenda items. If you did not sign up to speak on an agenda item, please come forward, state your name and the agenda item topic on which you'll be speaking on. Okay, none have come forward, and now we'll proceed with roll call with Joe Grenier.
Councilmember Sheard.
Present.
Councilmember Stelk.
Present.
Councilmember Conley.
Present.
Councilmember Nickerson.
Present.
Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Council President O'Neill.
Present.
Councilmember Hawsey.
Present.
Councilmember Mendoza. Pollock and Landfair will be absent, and Mayor Steele.
Thank you. First up is the library budget proposal with Celine.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here and tell you a little bit about the budget for this next year. And we're looking at our personnel services decreases from $2 million to $1,984,000, which would be a decrease of 2.4%. But this does not include the following request. We were requesting 1 FTE. What we'd like to do is do an in-house promotion from Library Assistant 1 to Library Assistant 2 for the bookmobile driver outreach position. So the difference in the position between what a Library Assistant 1 makes now and what a Library Assistant 2 would make would be $6,500 more for that position. So when we add that position, we would need to replace 1 Library Assistant 1 from that promotion with not 1 FTE full-timer, but hiring 2 part-timers at 20 hours each with no benefits. So for both of those part-time positions, that would be $52,227, which would save a lot of money in the budget since we didn't have to pay any benefits at all. So this last year, we added the 2 FTE and added the 5 part-timers, and we found that having the part-time help has been really a good thing for the library since we're a little bit more flexible. And the library is open 7 days a week, not just 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So we have a little bit more flexibility to assign staff. So with the promotion of the other thing I'd like to add was the promotion of a librarian 2 to the assistant library director. And so this is a little graph of what we have right now, what we've had since 2023. And so this last year we had 22.5 in our FTE, and we'd like to just increase that one position to 23.5 FTE. And so the request for the reclassification for assistant library director, probably about 17 years ago, I believe, we did have an assistant library director that we worked with, and we had about 5 or 6 librarians. And so with that assistant director, the library director, it's a good thing to get someone trained and also help to have a little bit more authority with handling things. There's a little graph there that kind of shows the difference between what our librarian 2 does right now and the assistant director. And Sean has worked at the library for about 10 years, and he does really terrific work. And when I'm gone, I can count on him to step up to the plate, and he's just really good at collection management, all kinds of things. And I think it's time to start thinking about, my retirement and getting someone in the door and getting them trained for future. So it would be a difference between the 2 salaries, and I looked at a chart, and I think we could start him at 3% above what he's making, and with not taking him to the higher end of the salary table. So right now I just have a request in with HR to look at that reclassification. It's not something that needs to be done right away, but I just want to start thinking of the future and planning, and not, getting caught with me being gone or absent or sick or retiring or whatever the case is, but looking to start to grow that position. So, we're really excited to be getting the bookmobile in, and the bookmobile, people are really excited about it. The community's excited, and this summer we started doing a little bit more outreach. We've gone out to the Literacy Council to do a Wednesday story time, and it's been a good thing, a good fit for us, because we work so much with literacy for children and adults. Also, we did an outreach to Stolly Park Gardens, and we've done some outreach to the parks programs and to schools, and we also did a great outreach to the Grand Generation Center there, that picture on the right. And so, adding the bookmobile is going to be a game changer for the library. It's going to contribute to our quality of life, help to improve reading scores, go to where the services are needed, and educate patrons about literacy, technology, and library services. So we're excited to be getting that in 2027. They said about 9 months, so I'm thinking spring, and then some time to kind of get our rotations lined up, where we'll be going out, all of that. So we have a lot of planning to do with that. So last time I was here, I shared the library report, and so this is just a little chart of how much the library benefits our community, how much money people save. So it's like $3 million, which, that's a good savings. And then it also shows our number of programs. At the bottom there's library services that are provided that are not included in those calculations, such as meeting and study room use. All of our things that we just do, and do so many different things with so many different partners in the community, and for people of all ages. So, from homebound delivery services to people that are shut-ins or can't get out for medical reasons, to providing food in the foyer for people that come in that maybe need some food. We try to keep food out there. So turning to our operating expenses, they would be about the same as this last year's budget. That's what I had figured, $598,800. And then we also have a cost for switching out our old computers. City IT recommends that we replace these on a 5-year rotation so we don't get caught replacing everything at the same time. So this is the year for that. And for capital projects, the only thing I had was recarpeting the old part of the library, the part that was recarpeted in, that should be 2007, that's a typo. It was installed, and so if you go to the library, you can see where the carpet's starting to buckle, and there's big spots on the carpet, and there's spots that are worn off, but it's just getting worn. So I had an estimate from a carpet place in Omaha, but when I called them, they were going out of business. So I was like, dang it. So I did get a couple of other estimates, but I still think it'll be under $300,000 for that. So, that's a picture there of our summer reading program, our carnival, which was dinosaur themed, but just thought I'd share that because we've had some really nice big groups of kids and lots of science and hands-on stuff. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Jack, you're up first.
Thank you. Question for you on, last year you said you would hire these part-time employees at 20 hours a week. And I know we had some questions of who would want those jobs. What was it like trying to hire for 20 hours a week?
We had over 200 people apply for jobs, and we've got really good people right now. And every once in a while we lose one to, like a medical situation, something comes up big, but the people that are there are very vested in the library and our programs, so it's been a good thing.
And you've seen benefits of having those employees there as far as more people having access to the library?
Yes, yeah, you can tell that more people are coming in, engaging with our programs, and they all have different skills, so they provide different, resources. We have a lot of part-time teachers and people that are good at art, and yeah, we just have a really great staff right now.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Nickerson?
Celine, I appreciate the work you do at the library, as you know, and it's interesting. I was talking with one of the new part-time employees, and Celine happened to be there. It was an event was there, and we just happened to be together, and we talked about that very question that Jack just asked, how was it hiring? How's the hiring going? And this lady is just new, and I'm not even sure she'd started yet. I think she was just getting ready to. And Celine said, we've had a lot of people apply for this job. And the lady there was so proud, and she said, I thought I was the only one that applied. So she felt very special because out of all the applicants, she had been one of the top employee applicants in those children. She was very proud of that, and rightly so. So if you thought that you were the only one applying and found out there was 150, that makes you feel pretty darn good. I do have a question about the numbers, and I don't know if you feel comfortable about answering them or if Patrick or Chelsea or whoever, but there's just some things that don't jive in the report in my brain, so you have to straighten that up. When you talk about overall expenses, I don't have the slides. I probably should go back to the slides. About $48,000 decrease, you said overall. It was a small number, 2% or whatever. And then you said we need to add $52,000 for this, and then we need $6,500 for this. And I'm trying to understand, is that number that you're talking about that's $48,000 lower than last year, including these other asks for the $52,000 and the $6,500? Or is that? Oh, go ahead. Sorry. No, I'm just looking for a clarification on that. Sorry about that. Celine, would you go to the Excel on the bottom? Your sheet's pulled up in the bottom.
That one?
No, bottom. Excel, taskbar.
Gotcha.
Nope.
Yep.
Okay, that'll do. So can you expand that a little so we can see it better?
Lower right corner.
Oh, wrong way. Oh. Way my day's gone. Ah, okay. Sorry. It's very temperamental. Let me try doing it the other way here. I really do work with technology. That's too big. Let's see.
Yeah, my bottom line question is the reduction truly a reduction? Or is it, because then you're saying we need to add additional dollars. I want to know really what the final number is. Is
Yeah.
it really, is it below last year, or is it really
It's
ahead of
the
last
exact
year?
same as it was last year. I looked at what we had spent, which was $598,000, and then
Okay, so with all the asks and everything, that statement is true
it
that it
stayed the
is
same except for our ask for the computers, and they recommended that the computers would be paid for from a transfer from the general fund. So-
Okay, so that you feel is covered well, the computers. And that was another question, because you said the operating expenses are the same, except we need 66,000 for computers. So we need it, but you've got a way to pay for it. It sounds like, okay. Then on the other part, I noticed on your FTE chart, the custodian disappeared in FY '25. There's 0. And then there's 0 going forward. Who's doing the custodian?
We have
work?
2 maintenance guys, and we lost our custodian a few years back. He passed away. So when we went out to put the job out, we switched it to 2 maintenance guys. That way we had everything covered.
Okay, so I saw the maintenance guys, but
Yeah.
the custodian job is basically vacant.
We don't
and-
have, no, we just have 2 maintenance guys.
Right, so it's really
No-
non-existent
no
anymore.
custodian, yep.
Okay,
So they cover everything.
So they take care of-
Snow, the grounds, everything.
cleaning the bathrooms and
Clean the
all that, it's all
bathrooms.
part of the
Yep.
schedule for it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, well, I appreciate that. It was just the numbers weren't jiving, because you were saying, we're asking, this is what it is, except we need this, and then we're here, but we're increasing this.
Yep,
Now,
that's-
the thing with Sean, if he's selected,
Yep.
how do you plan to budget that? Is that anywhere in these numbers at all, or is that something
No.
that you just,
No, I still need to get the figures from HR, because they had to recreate the position and look at other classifications and stuff, so it's in the works, but yeah, it would be an increase too.
so that's coming, that information will be coming forward to us at a later date?
Yes. So I guess because of last year, we've kind of changed our reclass programming. There's a lot more paperwork, a lot more forms to fill out, more reviews internally, and we started that process a little late. So once we get all those forms, all the reviews done internally, we plan to have an FTE budget session at some point, probably late July, where we'll focus on all the FTEs, and council will have all that information to make those decisions.
Will that happen after all of our presentations?
Yes. Yes,
That was kind of my fault, because I'd never done a reclassification, so I didn't quite.
just changed, so.
Well, very good. Okay, well, basically, everything's flat, is what you're saying. For the most part, everything's flat, except whatever happens with this reclassification.
Adding the 1 FTE, which would be the,
You're really 2 part-timers at that
yep,
point.
yep. And then the switching a library assistant one, that would be an extra $6,000. So you're looking under $60,000 for all those changes.
Yes, but you said that's included in your overall numbers that you said for,
No, that was, we'd need to add that back in. Those figures I got were from Alicia in finance, and so she said that would be like a small increase for that if we do add the FTE in, the 1 FTE in.
that's what my primary question was. So we're up a little bit. We're going to be up a little bit.
A little bit, but not a lot.
Not much, okay. So it's not an overall decrease. It's probably a slight increase.
Slight increase. I try to keep it down and be as cognizant of the
Yep.
budget as possible.
All right. Well, I hear your excitement about the bookmobile, the things that you've done to help contribute to the assurance that we get it through the kiosk reallocation of funds and doing what you're doing to try to make sure we have somebody to man it, because there's no sense having a bookmobile if it sits in the parking lot with no one to drive it. So again, you just do a great job there, and all the things that go on there. I'm going to go back to Mark Stelk, and if he ever denies this, I'll take full account for it, but that's just an event center for kiddos and everybody. There's so many things going on in the library. It's just another event center. And you do great things, touch a lot of people, and just like to know as we get along here what that assistant library director impact will be, and we'll find that out.
Great. Yep.
I would like to add that on the personnel side, we will go back and review personnel costs for all departments, just because a lot of these bargaining units are based on a CPI. And the latest CPI for that is a 5.5% increase. We did not build that into our model. We built in 3%. But with these bargaining units, they're capped at 5%. So, yeah, we're looking at a sizable CPI for some of these folks. So we'll revisit that, and that's part of the FTE discussion as well. So.
Celine, I just have a few comments. So I know last year we added a few positions, I think mostly part-time, and the intent was to kind of expand some of the hours. And it sounds like that's been pretty helpful over there, providing a little more access. And I just want to be careful, anything we do that, if we're adding people, we're just making sure it's sustainable as well. If we have a big addition one year, I don't want to keep coming back to the well a lot year after year. A couple of concerns I had was just on the reclassification. So on one of the slides, I believed it referred to it as a promotion, and then the next slide it referred to it as reclassification. And reclassifications are not promotions, they're for structural changes. And I did a little looking in this one, and it sounded like the assistant director was really more of a backup to you as the director out there. And I believe in the slide it also mentioned they didn't have the lower level people reporting to them. I did look at the org chart, and it appeared that most of the staff this person does have supervisory access to most of the employees already, so it didn't appear accurate with what I saw on the chart.
Great.
And also I did look at the job description for the library too, and it looked like it clearly stated in there they already do have backup access to the director to do financial decisions and other things at the library. So I don't really understand structurally, I'm kind of struggling how that's a true reclass, if that's already in that job description with the case. But I know it sounds like it's being reviewed, but those are just a couple of the concerns I had because it looked like that's already basically there, so I don't know how it'd be fundamentally different. But I just wanted to point that out, and I guess that'll go through its process as well. But
Yeah, we're working on the description for that, and yeah, I get that.
okay, thank you. And Mr. Hazy?
Thanks. So Celine, I guess the first question, I think you have the most robust complementary volunteer program that we have in the city. How is that program still working? Is it functional or not?
It's working pretty good. We've got a couple of college kids that are volunteering this summer, and the problem is, like, last weekend we did outreach, so we had 2 volunteers, 1 staff member, and I went out to set it up. And I ended up staying for the whole thing because 1 volunteer didn't show up because they were sick. So volunteers are great, but they're not always 100%, but they sure do a lot of things for us at the library as far as helping with programs and sitting at the welcome desk, our book sale, getting books out, outreach. The only issue is it's kind of a, thing where sometimes they don't show up or they're gone or something better comes along. But they do a lot for us. It's important work that they do. But the other thing is they can't access public, our private information like our library system, people's names and stuff like that. So we can't just give them a computer and tell them to help with library stuff because we got to be real careful with the privacy laws and stuff.
So about how many volunteers do you think you have at the library?
Oh, throughout the year, I'd say probably maybe over 150, but they're like some of them do it just at Christmas time. Some of them do just summer reading enrichment. And sometimes we get some groups of kids that are like a college group that needs to come in and volunteer, like for the Bear Fair. We get a good group of seniors from the high school. So they help a lot.
And one of your reclass requests, I think, was from a library assistant 1 to a library assistant 2 for the bookmobile driver. So what do they do now? And other than drive to another point, what's the difference other than the driving the bookmobile from point A to point B and parking? I'm assuming they go somewhere and they park.
Right, that's a great question. So our library assistant one right now, they do all kinds of customer service at all the desks, reference children's, check-in. They do processing, they help with programs. So if we bump someone up to library assistant two, they would do more technical work. They'd be able to help people when they get on the bookmobile to get a library card and to access our databases. It's just more technical skills. They would also have to plan a route and help with outreach. So these duties would be more in charge of the bookmobile and outreach. And that's what our library assistant twos do in those positions. They're more of they can be a supervisor on duty if a librarian's gone. They just do higher level technical work for us.
So you said we went 17 years without an assistant director, and you're asking for an assistant director now. So you've got about 20 people, 20 people in one location, and you're open, I mean, obviously, let's just say you work 40 hours a week. The library's open 60 hours. I don't know, how many hours is the library open in a week?
Gosh, I don't know. I'd have to add them all up, but we're open, 9 to 8 Monday and Tuesday, 9 to 6 Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're open 9 to 5, and Friday, Saturday 9 to 5, and Sunday 1 to 5. So I think I don't know.
It's either upper 50s or maybe 60 hours. So
I think it's like 64 hours, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, that's probably right. So who does the supervision when you're not there now for the 20 hours that you're
We have
not there?
librarians that are on duty that work, and Sean works Saturdays to help cover. So we have someone, we deal with a lot of stuff. Sometimes it's volatile stuff, like, we might have to deal with someone that's having a mental crisis. So it's good to have the librarians there as much as possible, but there might be a situation where we might have 2 library assistant twos there, and someone has to leave early for a medical, if something comes up. So Sean has just been a real leader with offering to help cover shifts, to take lead work when we get genealogy and cataloging questions, and he just does really good work. And I think,
I think when we talk about I think organizationally, we're talking about, is it a good move to create this position in the organization with the intent that if we do create it, it's going to be here until we do something different. I don't want it to be about one person or another because
Right.
of just the way it works.
Yep.
No, I like to talk about the organizational needs and stuff, so.
I do encourage all the librarians they all have their master's degrees to, I know Sean's done additional certificates and stuff for genealogy, and he takes a lot of classes, he takes a lot of pride in his work. And so, the librarian ones, I encourage them to earn that librarian 2 spot, when they're ready to move on to that next spot. But I just really feel like Sean is ready to move on to assistant library director, and it would be good because most libraries in Nebraska, the bigger ones, have an assistant library director, and most departments have higher level directors and assistant directors to manage all the admin work, budget work, everything that we do.
Yeah, and I think it makes it easier if you have one location and one floor, and some of the other departments, anyway. So 2 other questions, one about the computer replacement. So you had 66,000. Now, will IT be buying those computers on their budget and then just providing them to the library? Is that how that works?
They purchase them in a lump agreement, but
The libraries could be purchasing $66,000 worth of computers, but IT does the ordering on our state contracts.
So those costs are not in the IT budget, they're in the library?
That is correct.
Okay. And then in the carpet, do you have commercial carpet where there's squares?
no, when this was installed, it was before the squares and the planks. We do have squares and planks on the other side of the library, so we'd be looking at getting the squares and with the replaceable, because that's what everybody does now, it wears better.
Yeah, so when you have wears or just damage to one part, it's easy to replace them. Okay.
And we do clean the carpets, and we've got a machine that cleans the carpets and furniture and stuff, and the guys hit stuff all the time and make it look better, but I think that old side of the library has reached its limit.
I've definitely seen the increase in the activity in the library, but a lot of it is electronically driven or remote driven, a lot of online access type of things. Is that driving a different type of librarian now or a different type of skill set?
Well, we got to make sure our staff all have the skills to help people online with their requests, but we do have still a really balanced out, the people that use the online resources and people that still want books and items they can find in hand in the library. So it hasn't gone all online. I don't know what it'll be like in 10 or 20 years. Like we used to have like cassettes and records, and, kids are like, what's that, So things change all the time, and so collections change too, so we always have to make sure we have what people need and move stuff around in our budget too.
Okay, thank you, Celine.
Yep.
Would anyone else like to speak on this? Then we'll proceed with the Information Technology Budget Proposal with Pat and Steph. Thanks, Celine.
Yep, thank you.
Bless you. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Tonight, this is Information Technology Budget Presentation. Personnel services are down barely 0.48. However, probably after the CPI and everything else, there will be an increase of probably 1%, 2%, or 3%. Operating expenses increased 30.4. We have some detail that we can show you, and Steph can go through kind of an itemization of some of the IT budget that we have here. So just to let everybody know, especially at home, the yellow lines are the main accounts in our accounting system. The blue lines, or in here, these are itemizations. We're able to, if we have contract services and we have say $300,000 worth of contract services, we can itemize what we're purchasing through our software. So these blue lines are those. So her budget's rather lengthy here. And then the green over here is just the difference. The difference is between the fiscal 27 proposed budget versus the fiscal 26 budgeted items. So overall, the operating expenses went up $370,310, 24.3% increase. So I'll let Steph come on up and kind of go through some of these
Chuck has a question here.
line items.
So Pat, can you go to the bottom of that? So in I think the first column says FY24.
Yep.
So the total operating expenses was 800, and I can't read it.
857,950.
So in FY25, it's how much?
882,665.
So in the year that we're in now, what are you predicting it to be? This year. So if we keep rolling that.
Yeah, I don't have the projected column on here.
And then we're budgeting for 1 point.
So fiscal year 26, we budgeted 1,500,000. And then for this year, it's 1,800,000.
So we've been spending 800 and some thousand the last 2 years, not counting this year. And we're going to ask for 1.8 million next year. What's the delta? What is it that we're spending new for roughly $1 million that we haven't spent in FY24, FY25? Because it's almost doubling, it is more than doubling from the actuals of FY24 and 25 to 27. I'm just curious, what's the driver of the $1 million expense?
So I would say in contract services, if you compare 24 and 25 to 26, 26 went up approximately $120,000. I don't have the itemization for those 2 years because we didn't have it.
That's all, if you don't have it, you don't have it. But that's kind of what I would be looking for, is what's driving, because one of the things that I hear when I'm out and about, stop spending so much money.
Yeah.
And we're not going to save our way to success, but I want to make sure that the success is defined when we look at these, and if we're going to spend money, that it's for the right reasons, and that we all know what it is, that we can support it.
So also the increases in machinery and equipment. We're making a sizable investment into technology. So as you can see in our 27 proposed, we have first line item is an AI system, 100,000. That probably won't even touch the surface of what AI is. It's just kind of an introduction or getting into AI. Again, that's kind of a policy probably question for council if they want to go that direction.
I definitely look forward to the conversation about an AI policy, because it's certainly going to be one of those that's going to impact everyone. I think I've asked questions on the schedule of bills. We have people now paying ChatGPT premium.
Yes.
I think HR was the department that was doing it. I'm like, I am curious. I'm not really worried, but I am curious as to, now we have our toes wet.
Yeah.
We now have city departments buying ChatGPT or Grok or some other AI program.
Right.
And they're buying the premium version. I only use the free version, so
Yeah.
I find myself using it more and more every day just to find out what time the store closes.
Absolutely, and I guess to add on to that, couple of things. So what I envision for the AI system is some of the things I've seen in our conferences that I go to. It's actually building a closed system. So it's not open to the outside. But building it with all the ordinances, all the resolutions, all the council packets, all that valuable information, historical information, and then building agendas that way, so that I think council would actually have a little bit more background, because as you know, some of our institutional knowledge has left. And I think this would help us in that area. And secondly, I had put out an RFP. It has been, I don't know how many years since we bid out at an accounting system, a full ERP system. I think 20 years or so, something like that. So we put out an RFP for a consultant to help us, okay, what does our system have? Can we maybe just upgrade this or look at a different system? That will come to council probably in a month or two. But what the point I'm making is, I would like to see if these consultants would say, hey, AI can help you in some of these support functions. And so it's a huge topic, but there could be some pretty good uses for us.
And I support getting involved in it, and I don't know what it takes to get involved in it, but I also want to make sure that it is, as you say, in a controlled environment, so that we're not, I think it can benefit a lot of mundane things. When I talk to you from time to time, I look up in AI as like, how many chickens can somebody have in the back of their yard? I look up, but what I don't do, I don't trust the answer. So I still ask the question, because I'm not sure the answer is the answer. I'm not sure it's accurate. I don't know how accurate it is. And so when I talk about, because I get citizens who call me and say, who do you notify when you change zoning? And I look up AI and it says, well, there's a 300-foot notification. Well, the city's site says neighbor, we notify the neighbors. I don't know that those are the same, but it's where I'm starting to use it. I know everybody who works, for the city has an opportunity to use it, the free version.
Yeah,
And they can get a lot done with the free version.
yeah, yeah. I tell you, I use it, but I use it every single day. So, again, to your point, you got to fact check those things.
Okay, thank you, Pat.
Sure,
Pat, I got a couple more things on this too.
good.
So back up there on the, I think it was machinery and equipment.
Okay.
So there's a pretty big shift there from the last budget. Does that include like workstations too and servers, or what all is really included in machinery and equipment?
So
guess it's kind of broken down
it would
there,
be
isn't it?
laptops and desktops. Do you have police in here as well? Or is that different? Yeah.
So, which line are you looking at specifically, Ryan?
The line 55, it looks like it's increasing again into the 27, a fair amount, so.
It is. So I will say, this does look like a very large number. However, some of it is going to be rolled from the current year. So for the VM host server replacements, for instance, that was also in FY26. That is going to be rolled. That is not an ask for more money, because we are currently working on that project right now. So the PC replacements, that did jump up because PCs are expensive to replace these days, and we have a lot of them that we have to replace every 3 to 5 years. So that did jump up. Let's see, AI obviously added some. I think we can, depending on which way we go, we'll be able to get some of that cost down potentially, but we took the numbers that we got and we went a little bit higher on a lot of these quotes.
And I'd like to touch base real quick on the VM host server replacements.
Yes.
So those are physical servers, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And I just have to throw this out there too, just having a lot of experience in that. This is the most expensive time I've ever seen my entire career to buy them.
Yes.
The cost has basically more than tripled since November. If I could hold off a year, I would.
So-
I don't know where you're at on the age, but.
I would love to. However, our hardware is very aged. And with the new models that Dell has currently out, the way that we replicate for disaster recovery, among other situations, we have to replace all of them at the same time. So preliminary quotes that we got are over $200,000 for the equipment.
What's the average age of the servers that you're replacing?
These particular data center servers, I'm embarrassed to say, are like 9 to 10 years
Oh,
old.
that's
So they
pretty
are
old.
very well over their age.
Okay,
So-
that's very outdated.
Yes.
I know it, and those prices are expected to be elevated, I think, for about another year, and I think you may see some relief then, but yikes.
Yep, I had a roadmap meeting with Dell yesterday, and they are expected to be this way until 2028.
Just so a lot of people understand, a lot of times some of these servers might have been $15,000 or $20,000. Now they're about $60,000 in less than a year's time. Data centers are driving that big time. The sheer growth of those, basically the production of these components is sold out for about a year. It's unprecedented. I've never seen it at this level. I want to touch a little bit on a couple of things with that too. I don't know if you're using VMware or not either. But and you might be on multi-year agreements. Okay, good.
We use Hyper-V through our
Okay.
Microsoft Enterprise Agreement because we try and cut down those costs.
And just something I see a lot too, you get on these multi-year agreements, some of these companies have been acquired by other ones, and some of the costs for renewals are skyrocketing as much as 40% is what I'm seeing on a lot of them. So I hope you're just watching out for those as those come up, and try and find alternatives if you have time. On the AI thing, I want to talk about this a little bit too, because I've had a lot of experience on these. So $100,000 is really kind of like a couple limited use case, kind of phase one type of solution, kind of entry level. I think you might be able to get a few things, kind of scratch the surface a bit. I've spent significantly more doing much more complex AI things out there. And I would say that typically what you see in the private sector is businesses aren't really adding new administrative positions now. I see a lot of times they're kind of maybe holding their current staff. They're really growing more through the AI and software implementation, automation type of things. I think in the next 4 or 5 years, AI could be one of the most impactful things we could actually do even as a city, of the sheer amount of capabilities it has. And I think a lot of people are just barely even scratching the edge of this thing. I would encourage to try and find at least a handful of use cases. I don't know if you have any in mind that you'd like to try and do this year, or
So with some of the points that Council Hazy brought up, that people are using the premium chat GPT, our concern is security because it is open AI. So we are looking for a closed AI function that will still give us functionality for what we're looking to, for the data we're trying to pull. But we also need to make sure it's compliant for not only us, for public safety. So it's got to be NCGIS compliance, it's got to be federal government compliance. So we're trying to find a good solution for that.
But I can tell you, just from my experience too, I think you'll find there's a ton of different AI platforms. Just each solution will have or each use case could have a very different thing. Chat GPT subscription is kind of basic, and it's nice to make your emails and letters sound good, but if you really want to do something transformational, you have to connect to their data as well. And you're correct, you'll need closed-end systems. And I know you guys are working on AI policy. I've kind of talked about that before too.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would really encourage us to continue to dig and push forward here, because I think this could be a extremely impactful thing across a lot of city operations at many departments. There's a lot of impact, and I don't think we're even seeing. If I had an analyst look through a lot of workflows, I think you'd find a lot of stuff we could do. And $100,000 would be extremely limited. I mean, you could buy a lot of subscriptions for that, but this is way beyond using solutions like ChatGPT. There's a lot of other platforms out there. So I'm glad we at least have something on there, and I would like to encourage to find more specific use cases and where are our biggest problems. Where can AI take the friction out of city operations? That's really kind of the key thing of what departments have a lot of that friction, that we can have people doing more enhanced duties and get the routine, mundane stuff through AI.
Yep, that is what we're trying to accomplish as well. So, yep.
Thank you. Jack, you're up next.
Thanks. I'm going to talk about AI here in a second, but you mentioned that the host server replacements are carryover. Is that the same with the move GIPD and emergency 911?
It is, yes. That is a long-term project because that is a major move. So we have begun the process. We have some of the infrastructure in place, but we still have a long way to go to do that. So that is also a rollover, yes.
Some of that 150 is from the 150 not spent so far in 26?
Yeah, so this, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. On the AI, one of the things, I use it every day, and we don't use it to write emails. We don't use it even to look things up. Like that is surface level stuff. We use it for some of the things Ryan's talking about, where we have built a closed system. It's an agent of ours, right? And we ask it questions. I have a staff, we have 12 on my team, and we've been doing this probably for 6 months. We spent $0 on it, honestly, other than the Claude subscription for a business. So not zero, but maybe a couple thousand. What we spend is a lot of time. And we know that investment in time is going to pay off. But of my 12 people on my staff, I think 6 of us are feeling comfortable enough to use it. We need all 12. And it's going to take training. So $100,000 for our city, I don't think that even scratches the surface when you start to look at, to truly make an impact, people have to know how to use it, where to use it. There's going to be some training involved. There's going to be some duplication of time, I guess. It's going to go up before it goes down. And I'm all for us doing that. I want to see a plan before we just invest what I think will end up being more like $250,000 into it. I would like to see what that plan looks like. I'd also like to see us develop an ethics and a standardized, this is what we agree to use AI for. And I want us to look at the impact it's going to have if the city does adopt it. I want to look at the environmental impact of a city this size actually doing it. We had some folks come in here and contact all of us about data centers and what their draw is. The lost at-risk adult, 79-year-old white female. Probably not right here. Boy, that system works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
My God, we paying for that? Yes. Is that on here?
Not my budget, no, but it,
That's incredible.
yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah.
Do a test and it just worked. But I hope they find the person. Back to what I was saying, I want to make sure that, when we look at the people that reached out to us about the environmental impacts of a data center, we're going to be doing some of the things that cause some of those impacts the more we use AI. We just are. And I told you how much we use it at my office. We're very small, and I'm concerned about that there. I want to make sure that we're being ethical when we do it, and I want to have a solution for it that might mean let's look in that long master plan of what offsetting is going to look like and what we need to do to offset the environmental impacts of it. I think that's our responsibility. If we're going to take a lead in being one of the cities that uses it, we need to do it right. So I don't think $100,000 is going to do much when we get to that point of it, but I would like to see a master plan. Have you guys, you talked about some of that. What does that look like?
Yep, so we do have an internal cybersecurity group that does discuss all of this. And we are working on, we're working with our cybersecurity insurance policyholder and developing AI policies as well as, like you said, ethical uses, secure uses, training, so that is being discussed, and we are developing a plan for that. And that will be discussed long before we ever let users into a system once it is purchased, so that we can have a controlled rollout and that users are aware of, the best use cases, what we would like to see done with the system. So
That's an internal policy or city policy. I'd like to see that come before council, that we understand it, and that I don't know if we have to give our stamp of approval, but I'd sure like to see it and be able to inform that a little bit. I feel like that's our responsibility a little bit to hold each other accountable. So, Pat, did you want to, you're leaning forward like you wanted to add to that?
So yeah, we'll put it into the personnel handbook where people will have to sign off on all that. Granted, I agree with you, the 100,000 is a drop in the bucket, but I think this starts this road. It's also an organizational shift for us, so not many people like a little bit of change, and so it's going to be kind of slow.
The idea that we have to sell it is we're going to spend some money to save some money, and efficiencies. Some of the things you mentioned, even just being able to access the information faster and to comprehend it faster. Those things are great. When we start looking at what roles that we don't replace with people to bring down some costs, that's a next step on it as well. So, thank you guys.
Mitch?
Stephanie, it's always good to see you at least once a year here, so I like to see you up front. If you wonder who's behind the curtain controlling all this stuff, here's the person right here. I always ask you what keeps you up at night. I know the answer is cybersecurity. You touched on that a little bit, if things go berserk in our system and somebody hacks it and all that. Just curious, again, how comfortable do you feel with everything? And there's always crooks trying to find a new way to get in. How in the world do we continue to do a good job of preventing against that? And how do you guard against the employee who always clicks on the thing they shouldn't have clicked on to possibly introduce something because somebody sent them something that seemed enticing, and then all of a sudden, oops, what do we got? So just curious how that all works and how you protect an entire network like this. How do we do that?
it's a lot. And a lot of the expenses that you see, a lot of the software packages that you see are geared towards that. We have made significant improvements with our antivirus software, hardware, network security, through routers, firewalls, various things of that type. So we are always trying to be proactive and stay on top of making sure that our network and our information is secure. Last year last couple of years we've done multi-factor authentication and, you know, a lot of different things to try and circumvent bad actors from getting in.
And I think that works well, too, the dual sources there of authentication. And then for you personally, just how in the world do you keep on top of all this ever-changing stuff? Because in your position, there's a lot going on. Just AI is just one small part of it, but it obviously will have a big impact. But that's not the only thing you got to be prepared for. How in the world do you keep on top of all this stuff?
A lot of lists and a lot of research. Yeah, it is a lot of work keeping on top of all of it.
Do we have outside sources that help us as well? Any other people that help us stay on
Yep,
top
so
of whatever's going on?
We have a network consultant that helps us a lot, staying on the forefront of things. If he sees things that come out, he alerts us so that we can make sure that we put the necessary pieces in place to stop attacks and stay on top of updates and changes. And if we have any concerns, he's there as an outside resource for us.
Good. And I know that anybody that wants to present anything through our computer system has to go through you now, or you or your team. They can't just bring a thumb drive in anymore and just pop it in. So I think that's another very positive step to scrub everything, make sure it's exactly safe so that we're not bringing some kind of virus or something into our system. And I know that irritates some people, but that's the way we have to do things to be safe.
Try and err on the side of caution.
Very good. All right, well, thank you for everything that you do.
I have a couple other notes here as well. So I know, Steph, I've sat in a lot of committees and advisory boards with you over the years, and I know we talk shop all the time about security stuff. And
Yep.
and the other thing to kind of bring up here too is the bad guys use AI too, and it's made things a lot more sophisticated and Steph's job a lot harder. So it's always tough to stay up on that. Just a couple of things I want to mention too. You know, I like to encourage, a lot of times when people look at how to do AI, it's tough to know where to start. You know, we don't really have a project management position here, I don't think, in IT. There's a lot of places that have done a lot of very big projects. You know, the initial trailblazers have been out there a few years at this point. So I just encourage to look at what others have done. I talk a lot to the CIO up at the City of Lincoln and also Derek up at .com in Omaha. I mean, they're working some pretty big things too. And you guys use a lot of standard software at various city departments here too. So I would really encourage you to kind of look around and see what some others have done. I'm sure there's already a few ahead, and don't try and chase brilliance too hard on your own. There's some other people out there that have done a lot. And I think when you get into it, you'll find doing those more transformational projects, I mean, they'll be expensive. You'll need some type of project management lead, and you may need to work with an external partner to help do some of that. I'm kind of a subscriber of agile methodology, you know, doing scrums and all that too when you implement those things. And I just learned how to do it the wrong way a lot of times, and just found a lot better ways just over my years. So I just encourage you to get creative and go out and network and see what everyone else is doing too, and I'm sure you'll come back with some great ideas.
Yep, we'll definitely do our research and do some digging, so, yep.
Would anyone else like to speak on this? And we'll go on to community development and CRA with Mr. Nabity.
I would like to add to Mitch's comments. Our insurance company is cyber insurance. I believe they actually do vulnerability tests on our system. They'll try to attack it, and then they send us a report. So it's really, we have other people looking in our system and making sure that we're doing the right things. So.
And they will also send us alerts. I just got one today as an advisory to let us know, hey, if you have this, make sure you take care of it. I mean, we were covered on that one, so we were good, but they do send us alerts and make sure we stay on top of vulnerabilities as well. So it's another good resource.
Yep.
So, yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chad, you're up.
Thank you. I didn't preload my presentation tonight, so you'll have to bear with me as I find it. And I actually have two of them, and we'll go through this one first. I I have a separate presentation for the CRA budget. This is community development, regional planning, and there are 3 divisions within community development. So first is the regional planning division. We are looking for fiscal year 27 with a 1% increase in personnel services and no requested FTEs this year. Operating expenses, we're looking at about 8%. That is a total of $2,400. I like to give you those actual numbers because 8% sounds really scary, but our budget, overall operating budget, is really very tiny, and a lot of that is bringing in the citizen serve subscriptions for employees, for myself and for my employees, for our online permitting. Those actually run about $1,500 a piece, so if we took those out, we'd have a decrease overall in our budget. Capital projects, no capital projects or capital funding for regional planning. Any questions on regional planning before I jump into building services? Or do you want me to go through them all?
Why don't you keep going? None so far.
Okay. Community development, building services, and Ed is here if you have any specific questions. We are looking at a 5% increase for personnel and no new FTEs. Operating expenses, there is a big jump. It's 44%, which includes carrying over $40,000 in contract services. That is the money that PRT uses to remove problem properties. We may have one of those. We have one of those that it looks like we're moving forward with, and it will take up about the $40,000, but then it also would give us $40,000 for projects next year.
Are some of those tied into like code enforcement issues?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think I might know what you're talking about. But
Typically, when it's $40,000, this typically means we're condemning a house or something and tearing it down.
And just kind of speak on that. So that 40,000 from there, the reason it really hasn't been allocated this year is that we had some properties out there we're looking at, but with the efforts of PRT and the collaborative effort, we were able to get at least 3 of those properties off there. There was one big one on 18th Street that was an old house. The gentleman had passed away. Nobody wanted to take responsibility for it. That was one that was looking at using this 40,000. We had a member from the community buy that property, so we didn't have to do it ourselves. But it was in a bad shape. It would have, they must have found him.
Ending the alert can be a little calmer.
So anyway, just kind of touch on that. That is why that money hasn't been utilized this year. That was kind of going to be earmarked for that one project there on 18th Street, but it came out to we didn't have to, and so instead of just letting it go, it's suggested to carry that over to the next fiscal year. So potentially, we got a couple other ones if we don't have the same success as we did, that we'll carry that over and use that for potential condemnation projects.
And you actually, last week, approved the micro-TIF on that project on 18th Street, where he's going to be building a couple of duplexes there after he's cleared off that property. So that is a big part of it. The other 22% of the increase is necessary for citizen serve licenses, and that is the software for building permits and so on.
Mr. Nickerson has a question.
Yeah, Ed, why don't you come back up? And for people that are watching, may not have any clue what PRT is, why don't you just help remind everybody really what that team does? How often do they meet, and what's the purpose?
PRT stands for Problem Resolution Team. So that is a group of several different departments. It's legal, building department, planning, the sheriff's department, the police department, and health department. And we all get together and for to get on that, there has to be issues with 2 or 3 departments without the city that we're just having problems. So we kind of get together once a quarter, talk about these properties, and work out the issues, and how can I help you to get this moved forward. So it's been really successful in getting some of these stuff that is kind of dead in the water. When we get in the room and just talk about it, whether going back and forth to emails or talking. So it's been a good help. So that's kind of the purpose of that is. I think it's, this team's been around maybe late 80s. I think Mayor Dobish had started this team, and it's done a lot of good things here.
And those homes are ones that are falling under several categories that are a problem. So it's not like just a vacant home that's been sitting there for 10 years.
It's like CSOs make frequent trips over there. Building department has issues that are structural issues, or there's some compliance issue that it doesn't move forward with legal, or we have to get legal involved to get these things to move forward. May have to go over to court. There's one, we cleared a property. It took order from the judge to allow us to go in there, and we did use that contract services money that we were just talking about previously to actually get that taken care of.
Okay. About how many properties do you think there are right now that you're dealing with, roughly?
Right now, we've got about a half a dozen on that list right now.
It just takes time to work through them?
It does. It may take time, a year, or one extreme, 7 years. So it just depends. Sometimes you'll talk to the people with the property and they'll start working towards it, then they'll stop. And then we kind of start the process all over again. But we're a little bit further than we were when we started it.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you, Ed.
Welcome.
And then capital equipment, we are looking at one new inspection vehicle. This will replace a 2010 Ford Focus. So just a replacement so that we have a vehicle for every inspector so that they can actually go out and do their job. Community development, and this should be grants and housing. We changed that last year. Personnel services is a decrease of 13%. We had an employee resign and a new one start at step one, so there's a decrease in overall salary over the years. That will go back up. No increase in FTEs. Operating expenses, we're looking at an increase of 35%. That's $6,600. When we moved this position last year, we didn't budget anything for that position for expenses and operating expenses. So we've been kind of limping along, and part of it helped that we had a vacancy and didn't have things, but we are adding $6,600 for travel and training and office equipment and expenses and those kinds of things. And then no capital projects or capital equipment.
I have a couple quick questions here,
Yeah.
Chad, and this might be for you or Ed, both. So in the last couple of weeks, I actually looked through some of those problems, I think on that PRT list that you're talking about. And I mean, some of them are pretty rough out there. And one of the comments or thoughts kind of came up, it might cost tens of thousands of dollars on a couple of those to really clean them up. And then I think the concern is, sometimes the person with the problem, may still own the land or the property. And there's a lot of concern, if you spend $15,000 cleaning it up, is it going to come back again in, a couple of years? As Ed mentioned, I think you kind of start that clock over again.
Right.
Is that kind of one of the concerns you guys have too? Like, is this it's probably case by
Yes,
case? Yeah.
that is very obviously one of those
that is a
concerns.
concern. So when I got the.
Can I get you between the
properties-
goalposts there? Thanks.
One of the properties we've got the one over there on East Oklahoma, there's a gentleman who lives in there and the house.
I live very close to that one. I'm extremely
Yeah,
familiar with it.
it's a classic Horton situation. He has some other issues. I'm very reluctant to use the city's money when I think he'll just go and fill it back up. So I'm not, there's never a good answer on how to combat those. In the past, the city has done cleanups of houses. They move back in, they fill it right back up. So those, I don't really like to use the money for that. If we've got some other avenues that we can get these people help, because it's clearly a mental illness.
You really just have to treat them all case by case on that, yeah.
Yes.
Before you make an investment of that
Yeah.
size, I assume
If
there's a lot.
if it's a clear structural issue in the house, there's no saving it, we'll tear it down. If the property owner just doesn't have the means or just refuses to comply, we'll go ahead and get a judgment and get that taken down, and then the property can be used for development.
And I know there are some very frustrated property owners that neighbor some of these too, so I know it's a tough job, but appreciate whatever we can do to try and help get those, but it still has to make financial sense, so. Thank you.
Ready for CRA?
Yep.
CRA budget, we are projecting, these are big numbers. A lot of that is TIF pass-throughs. We've got over 90 TIF projects that are currently active in the city of Grand Island. We've paid off a few of them this year, and we'll pay off a few of those as the year continues. But we are looking at operating budget just slightly increased from 2026, program, when I say program, what I'm talking about is facade improvements, other grants, life safety program, those things that we do as grants. We're looking at an increase there, and I'll get into that as we talk about the property that the CRA purchased on 4th Street this year and how we're budgeting for that and for sale of that property and then reuse of those funds. TIF bond payments, they are not actually that high. We've got about $1 million of additional funding in there that is there to make sure that if more money comes in than we have budgeted, than we expect, we can pay that out because we are obligated to pay that out. We only pay out what comes in. So if it doesn't come in, we don't pay it out. It doesn't give us any real additional authority, but it does keep us from having to do a budget amendment in order to make our contractual obligations on that. Husker Harvest Days in Conestoga Mall, we have $200,000 to each of those. We have 2 more years of Husker Harvest Days and 27 years of Conestoga Mall. I think 17 years of Conestoga Mall. So the CRA is asking for that the levy stay the same as it was this year. We're assuming about a 3% growth in overall property valuation. That would raise $822,000 estimated. Highlights, we're looking at facade improvements of $450,000, Conestoga Marketplace, payment 4 of 20 of $200,000, Husker Harvest Days, 9 of 10 of $200,000, other projects, $500,000. So that's a really big number, but I want to talk about that with the property on 4th Street. The fire and life safety, $200,000. We have allocated $120,000 of what was budgeted this year, and I've got some people that are still interested. We may budget some more of that for this year. And then land purchase, $100,000. Most years we don't purchase property. This year we did. Carryover projects, and these are things where we have already committed funds to these projects, and they will not be done before the end of the budget year. So we have 3 of those that I'm anticipating, $120,000 for the life safety for the old City Hall project, the upper story residential that they have planned there, $65,000 for life safety at Tower 217. Again, that's more upper story apartments. And then last month, the Liederkranz approached the CRA and requested funding for a fire alarm system and a life safety study. That life safety study actually will also include things like ADA accessibility, how to potentially put an elevator into that so that you can get from one level of the building to another. The changes in 2015 to the fire code got rid of any grandfathering for sprinklers and so on. So that was 10 years ago. The former fire marshal had been working with the Liederkranz for the last 10 years trying to get them moving on this. They are moving on it now finally. So they are looking at how to put fire sprinklers in that building. They may come back for additional funding at some point, but it does make sense to have a plan on how to do it, how to tie it in with if they want to put an elevator in so that they don't have to move things in the future. And the CRA did make that grant last month. Projects paid since last year, we paid off the life safety improvements on the Hetty building. We paid the facade grant down on Ramada Road, the facade grant at 703 West 3rd, and we've paid $300,000 of the facade project on the Elks building. I anticipate we'll pay the last $100,000 out before the end of the year. Then we have two more, the Woolworth building, life safety, $55,000. Again, that's for upper story residential, and a facade. They are finishing that project up, so I'm anticipating that we'll pay that out before the end of the fiscal year. We also paid for holiday decorations for the 4th Street BID and speakers for a portion of the speaker project with Railside. I know City Council also designated money for that project. And then the last thing that we did was we purchased the Miller property on 4th Street. This is the property that's behind the water shop that the Utilities Department was looking at purchasing a couple of years ago, and it was purchased by somebody else, and they ended up not being able to use it for what they wanted to use it for. We did purchase this. Utilities wants to buy about 2/3 of the property that they need. They were interested in it a couple years ago. They will purchase it from the CRA. We're also proposing that we use community development block grant funds, which we have some funding that has come back to the city, including some from 4th Street, for the city to purchase the remaining portion of that to create a plaza there on 4th Street. And then the CRA would be able to take that funding that we get back and invest that into the 4th Street Plaza project. So this is the property on 4th Street. This is T-Shirt Engineers. This is the water shop. So this is the old fire station there on 4th Street. Utilities would take about 2/3 of this, and this leaves a plaza that is similar in size to a Moore Plaza. TIF projects with final payments this year, one of Todd Inc.'s duplex projects, the Auto One project that did a triplex there on Pine Street, Weinrich Development, there's on Division and Plum. That one only went for 7 years. Tower 217 will pay off this year. Habitat's project on 8th and Superior. The EIG Grand Island LLC will pay off in 2027. That would be the project out by the Grand Island Mall where the old U-Save grocery store was, or warehouse grocery store. It's where Men's Warehouse and Five and Below and those are at. Token Properties Kimball will pay off, and so will TC Inc. Builders on Eddy. So those duplex projects that Todd Inc. did several years ago, we are anticipating will pay off in the next year.
Jay Vavricek, did you want to speak on this?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Catch your breath.
No one ever questions Chad Nabody's expertise. He does a great job with planning and the CRA, and if you ever want great kolaches, boy, he does a good job there too as well. But I'm speaking on behalf of the Community Redevelopment Authority's budget, and I don't think there's a one of you up there that doesn't believe in the mission of the CRA, of what it really can provide so many benefits for our community. Not only does it provide an incentive for development for new folks to be annexed potentially, not only does it provide an incentive maybe for someone to take a risk in a new business adventure because they could go ahead and maybe leverage some assistance, redevelopment old property into something that's meaningful, but when you get down to it, it ultimately creates vibrancy in our community and jobs. And with every establishment that it fosters, once it becomes on the tax rolls, it increases the valuation. That means there's more potential public resources for schools and county and city. So when I talk about this, and I think I've been here now, and maybe Chuck or Mitch can correct me, but I think I've been here the last 3 years. And I've just remarked that under the state statute, why do we continue to limit our chances to maximize the CRA's opportunities by not using what the state allows the CRA for taxation of the 2.6 levy? We had that levy in place years and years ago, and it's my understanding that there's probably more projects coming down the pike each and every year that could use more resources. And based on this budget, I think there's ought to be potentially a cushion to consider before you actually finalize the budget going forward. So I approached the CRA committee a couple months ago, and Mr. Nicholson's the liaison, and he attended that. But I just remember similar remarks from a year ago when I talked about the fact that why aren't we maximizing the 2.6, not go over it? We cannot go over 2.6 according to the state statute. But those dollars could be used for more benefit than what we can do at a lower amount. And going forward, once again, I'm reminiscing of some of the comments made by council. If there's a demonstrated need to consider going to that level, then let's hear about it. I don't think there's anyone has a closed mind on that if there's a need. And not knowing where all the different tea leaves are going to end up on the aquatic center, but potentially they might want to have a cushion for the city to be a partner in that aquatics, not knowing how the 22 million is going to end up, not knowing how all the different pieces of the pie might work out. But if Chad wouldn't mind, this goes back to 2000 and, I don't know, 4, 6, when the city did not have a lot of resources to reinvest and build Lincoln Pool. So the CRA became a partner and actually bonded a certain portion of that to make that possible. And maybe a similar opportunity might exist as you get down the road on the aquatic center, which is going to be a public-private partnership if that whole effort comes to fruition. So I just come forward and saying, hey, just keep, for food for thought, keep in mind, is there something that would be beneficial, knowing that there's a certain number of things coming down the line in addition to maybe the Liederkranz, maybe other projects that you're not aware of, maybe the aquatics, but doggone, let's don't sell ourselves short, because while the CRA is relatively somewhat modern, I mean, it didn't exist until maybe the mid-'70s, but we kind of take it all for granted now. But boy, it's vibrant, and you look at all these different projects, they wouldn't happen without the Community Redevelopment Authority. So that's what I wanted to remark for your information, just food for thought and maybe discussion to consider ways that you can bolster this down the road. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Hazy?
No kolache recipes today.
Thank you, Ryan. So Chad, what is the cash balance in the CRA fund as of now?
As of June 30th,
Okay,
it is the CRA cash, and I'm not going to include the TIF cash because that's paid out, is $475,587,000. We have $388,000 of outstanding commitments. So there's about $90,000 in there right now.
it'll be pretty well drained by the end of the year.
It could, I anticipate we'll be at about $350,000 by the end of the year because we will get our second big part of the property taxes.
What is your tax asking for FY '27? Do you have a tax ask
We're asking for the $822,000, which would keep our levy at where it is right now, which is 1.54 something.
1.54, and then Mayor Vavricek talked about the
Going to
2.6. So that literally would bring you another $500,000?
Yes,
maybe?
every 0.1 mils raises $50,000, rough.
So should we ask for the other $500,000 to take the tax asking for the CRA up to 2.6 mils?
Right.
Should we do that?
The CRA did not feel comfortable making that ask of City Council at this point in time. We don't have anything very specific. However, they did say they would not be opposed to council doing that if there is a project that council wants them to take on. For instance, if you wanted to budget for improvements so that the CRA would have money for improvements at the Liederkranz, and to facilitate that. Or, as Mr. Vavricek said, the potential of working with the Aquatic Center, in 2013, I believe it was, the CRA levy went from 1.8 mils to 2.6 mils. And it did go to 2.6 mils because the City Council said, we can't afford to do Lincoln Park Pool. It needs to be replaced. This is a huge asset in that neighborhood and one of them that we want to preserve. And so they asked the CRA to bond those improvements and said, at that point, we will raise your levy to 2.6 mils and we'll keep it there. Well, over the course of the last 13 years, property valuations have gone up substantially, and the CRA, I believe responsibly, and the City Council responsibly has lowered that levy appropriately since then. So, long answer to your question, if there are things that council wants the CRA to very specifically participate in, they would be supportive of raising the levy, whether it's all the way to 2.6 or somewhere in between.
So Chad, thank you, because I think the part is historically, I do not want any governmental entity to tax people just to hoard money.
Right.
And so at one point, we had 3 or 4 years worth of annual tax in the bank.
Right.
And so we need these projects in order to pass the levy. And I think the projects are the essential key to this thing. I think Chad has managed it to the point now that we don't have hardly any left. It was like less than 100,000 of everything that's committed gets paid out this year. And then when everybody makes their second half of their August property tax, Chad will get another infusion, but maybe it takes you up to 90,000 or whatever that may be. Mayor Vavricek talked about the Aquatic Center and the Liederkranz, both which are very important to the community. And I hadn't thought about the CRA, but I would certainly, as we look at this budget process, if we can actually identify the Liederkranz and or the aquatics or needs that are real, I would be willing to look at increasing the 1.54 to closer to the 2.6 if we can actually identify something that we're going to do with it.
I think the CRA board would support that wholeheartedly, but they're also trying to be responsible community members, and they're paying taxes too, and don't want to put a burden on anybody.
Right, and I appreciate that, and I think listening to the decades-long conversation with the Liederkranz, it's a volunteer club. Again, they all have challenges, so.
And a downtown staple.
Yes. Well, thank you, Chad.
Chad, I echo Chuck here too. I appreciate the restraint if you don't need the extra tax ask to not take it as well. I'm probably more familiar about this than a few other people too about the 4th Street Plaza, but I mean the 4th Street BID has been extremely interested in that too, correct? Just to confirm for everyone else.
Yes, the 4th Street BID actually released some CDBG funds they had for another project that had not moved forward yet back to the CDBG program with the expectation that those would be used to help purchase this property from the CRA. By doing that, what we're doing is taking those CDBG dollars, probably about $260,000, give or take, and using them for a specific purpose that is allowed within CDBG program, and then the CRA will have those funds and can dedicate those funds back to improvements on that property, but we won't have to follow federal regulations for the use of those funds, Davis-Bacon, those kinds of things, because those funds will have been defederalized. We'll have used them for the appropriate purpose, put them back into the CRA's pool of funds, and then they can grant them back out for improvements.
Thank you. Mr. Sheard?
Thanks. Love that. That's last bit, very cool. On the leader grants, you had money in this year to do the study.
Yes.
I would want to see the results of that study before we agree to any changes to the tax, to know what would be necessary and why.
I would anticipate it's going to take 6 months or so for that study to come
And then
forward.
if we want to
It
raise
would
that,
not be in this year.
it would be the next budget.
But
I'm
I
with Chuck.
I don't disagree at all, and in order to do a significant project with the Liederkranz that may last several years, my recommendation is that we go through the process to do a redevelopment plan, take it through CRA, Planning Commission, Council for approval, similar to what we did with Husker Harvest Days or with the Conestoga Mall project, that was approved as part of a redevelopment plan, and that long-term investment was approved with that as well.
And I think that's a long conversation beyond this,
Right.
of what council will think of that, but I don't want to, I know we'll probably say, man, I wish we would have had that extra $500,000, but I don't want to sit and hold it on the idea that we might on something we haven't agreed to yet. So
Right.
otherwise, thank you.
Next is JackRabbit Run Golf Budget Proposal.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Sedona Manful. I'm the general manager at JackRabbit Run Golf Course. Plans are that I just run through this quickly. I want to thank you for allowing us to attend. This is the first time we've ever been to a study session before and been able to be before council before actual budget approval. So we really appreciate that. I quickly just want to introduce tonight, I've got Joel Holling with me, who's been the superintendent at the course for 37 years. Justin Arlt is right here behind me to my left. He is the regional manager, so he's from Landscapes Golf Management. And someone who you have probably not had the opportunity to meet yet is Tatum Timbers, who is sitting over there next to Joel. And he is our PGA golf professional that we've brought on this year, and he's doing an amazing job for us. So going down to the voice of the customer, all of our ratings from the NPS, course conditions, how likely are you to return, pace of play, staff being helpful, and professionalism are all well above average. The key strategies that we want to implement this year in order to achieve our proposed 2027 budget is we're looking at approximately a 4% increase in pricing across the board as far as passes go, general golf rates go, and that's just to offset rising costs.
Donna?
Yep.
Could I have you make that a full screen for people that are watching that at home?
Hit F5.
F5? There we go, very good,
Better?
thank you, that'll help.
Thank you. Okay, some of the other things that we want to do in order to establish the budget are expanding our outings. We want to do, these are some things that we're going to be attempting, some of these this fall, and then some of them coming into next year. So a Ryder Cup format. A lot of golf courses will do like a member guest. We don't have members, we have pass holders. So we're looking at doing like a pass holder guest type event, an adult junior event, expanding our current teachers league, and then we have a brand new anytime league this year, so we want to look at expanding that as well. Look at possibly doing a cornhole tournament. We will continue to manage our inventory both for merchandise, food and beverage, and in the maintenance department. We want to make sure that we are providing our staff with the equipment and the resources necessary to remain successful, and especially maintaining the conditions of the golf course. We plan on continuing with our current weekend pricing, where weekend is Friday through Sunday, and also continuing to have people utilize our JackRabbit Run app, credit books, Tag Marshall GPS sponsorships. And then this coming year, we want to investigate the possibility of partnering, doing some corporate memberships, sponsorships, and just partnering with area businesses. Those are just kind of some highlights from those slides. This right here is our financial summary, and I just want to make sure everyone understands this is through the May 2026 draft. I did not have the final financials from May available when the presentation was requested. So basically everything from October through the month of May are actual numbers. May change slightly when the final financials come in. And then everything for June, July, August, and September are budgeted numbers. We are, as you can see, it's probably kind of hard to see, but we are beating budget as far as our gross revenues go and gross profit. Our expenses are fairly flat to budget. We're about $1,000 over budget 9 months into the fiscal year. So currently, we are still looking at a potential loss as far as EBITDA goes for the fiscal year 2026, but today's June 29th, and I'm looking at June numbers, and June's well above budget. So if we can see that success continued in June and have that go through July, August, and September, I can definitely see this being in the positive as far as finishing out fiscal year 2026. Fiscal year 2027, this is just the summary budget page. We're basically looking at bringing in just under $1.4 million in revenue, which is about a 10% increase over fiscal year 26. Expenses are looking at about a 5% increase. Again, everyone knows everything's going up in price, right? Equipment, chemicals, food, it all is unfortunately going up in price. But with this proposed budget, we are looking at finishing fiscal year 2027 with a positive number. On to 2027 capital requests. What we're asking for this year is we want to continue our tree removal and planting project. We've had a few bad storms go through this season, and we have actually fared very well. We've lost 2 large limbs over the entire course, and then of course some small, sticks and branches. But I really attribute us not having severe damage to the fact that we have done this tree program and we've cut down trees that are dead and dying, and then we're strategically replacing them. Our driving range needs some attention. It needs new signage out there. Some of the numbers are kind of even hard to read on the yardages. We'd like to put some additional markers out there, pour concrete, and add some additional driving range mats to allow our patrons to be able to come out and utilize the driving range on those nicer days in the winter months. If it gets above 40 degrees, they can come out and they can hit off of the range all winter long. Next item is, we've talked about the deck for a couple years. The deck is basically done. It's gonna have to be torn down. It's really getting to the point where it's not safe anymore. So we need to replace the deck. I'd like to expand that deck. Our inside space is very limited, and so we basically overflow into that outside deck space when we have events, and we could really use some more space. And then along with that, would be getting deck furniture and then replacing the grill, which is our only way that we have to cook anything unless we do it in a roaster or on the hot dog roller, so. Our parking lot needs to be regraded desperately with the landfill still shifting and everything. I've reached out to Shannon with the streets department. It's been graded a few times in the past, but there was never any cost to the golf course because it was a city entity and a city entity. I'm not quite sure how that is going to work this year, and that's why I put unknown next to that as far as a dollar amount. She did email me back today, but she said she's going to get us on the schedule, and I asked the question about costs, but I haven't heard back on her for that yet, so that's why I left that there. The equipment that we're asking for is 2 Toro Greens mowers, which the total for both of them is that $95,060, and that's through Sourcewell. Those mowers would replace 2 units that we currently have in our maintenance leasing program. The reason that we want to replace those is twofold. One, the age of those units is getting to where they need to have the knife units and the blades, and they need to have a bunch of work done to them, and it's going to be some significant money that we would be putting into leased equipment that is already, I think, 11 or 12 years old. If we purchase the mowers, they would become assets of the city. They would also then do a better job, but then it would also help decrease our lease payments for those 2 mowers that are currently coming out of operating. And then just another small ask for a blower for the maintenance department for $12,000. Items for the radar, we've covered a lot of this before, the irrigation system. I will tell you that there is a company coming out, Landscapes Golf Management is partnering with Irrigation Technologies out of Denver. They're actually going to be on site July 6th through 8th. I don't know the exact timeline of arrival on the 6th, but they are basically going to be doing a study of the irrigation system at the golf course. They will then prepare a report that council can then review. They will let you know what they think improvements, replacements, what needs to be made, and I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking there'll be some dollar amounts tied with that as well. So at least now you'll have a document that is maybe more informative of what we're looking at as far as irrigation system goes at the golf course. The septic system we've talked about, and connecting the sewer and water. Some of these other items are just radar items for the future, but I just included them in the presentation. We're really super proud to be the home of all these different organizations here, our men's leagues and our ladies' leagues. We've got senior leagues, we have teachers' league, we have a new Anytime League that we're just doing this year. We're super proud to be the home of Northwest High School's golf program. We did hold the first U.S. Kids golf event out here that happened in the Midwest for quite a number of years.
Mr. Sheard has a question here. Okay, you sure? Okay.
Sorry. And then we did host 3 Nebraska junior golf events. One question, and I guess I didn't have it in the presentation, is I do receive quite a few requests for people that want to purchase cigars on the course. They are bringing them on the course, which that's not against the law. They can do that. But I don't know if that's something the council would be willing to consider for us to have the revenue from that. It's not going to be a huge amount of revenue, obviously, but every little bit helps. And then I guess I just want to conclude before any questions, just say that we're an extremely proud partner for various organizations in the community. We help all different types of organizations, from children's with disabilities, veterans, scholarship fundraising, various animal rescue organizations, while all maintaining excellent course conditions and excellent customer service at the course to give everyone that visits us, whether it's somebody from out of state that's just coming because they happen to be in Nebraska for the Cattleman Show, which we had some traffic from, the Nebraska State Fair, concerts, things like that, all the way to our pass holders that we see every single day. We just want to give them the best experience possible for coming out to JackRabbit Run. So I think Justin wanted to say a few things, and then I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Or Jack, do you want to? Okay.
Justin, if you want to come up.
Thanks, Sedona. Just wanted to give a high-level overview. Obviously, she put together a great presentation. Maybe get in front of some questions, simplify our time. The budget that's been put in front of you, just high-level recap, we're looking at increasing rounds 8%, revenue 10%. Our expenses are going to go up about 8%. And then I wanted to touch on payroll because wages are always top of mind. The total wages will be somewhere around, well, not somewhere around, $534,000. And that's a $43,000 increase, roughly 8%. So it's an aggressive budget, but we feel very confident that we can achieve what Patrick and the city and Todd have kind of asked us, and we feel that the council wants is, when can we operate at a break even? And the exciting thing is, this will be the first time that we produce a budget that we expect to finish in the black. That is aggressive, but we feel we can do that. We're coming off of a year in which we did not ask for a cash infusion, so there was no supplemental cash infusion, which is a great sign. We've only done that 2 out of all of our years managing, so things are tracking in the right direction. So I kind of wanted to touch that, and with that, Sadana and I are happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Jack?
Thank you. Thanks for the report. I think you guys are doing some good things. I had a question about the mower, just in that lease. You talk about it's $95,000 to get 2 mowers. How much is the lease payment?
So our current maintenance lease payment is a little over $14,000 per month for 6 months out of the year. Now, the 2 mowers that we would be replacing are included in that $14,000. I think our lease payment would probably go down $2,000 to $3,000 per month. So we're looking at a savings of $12,000 to $18,000 out of the operating budget, because all leases are currently paid out of operating, which is a little bit different than when Landscapes first took over, just with some changes in accounting for municipalities and stuff through the management company.
So $12,000 to $18,000 you'd save in that bucket would take you 5 years. How long do these mowers last?
I mean, the current mowers that we're using right now, I believe, are 12 years, 11 years old. They're still usable. We're just to the point where it's going to cost, we're probably talking $16,000-ish just to do the repairs on them this year. And then every year, as equipment ages, obviously the repair costs go up in those, and they are leased, so we have absolutely no equity in them. The city doesn't. When Landscapes first came in, the equipment at the course was significantly aged, and so there really wasn't any choice besides to basically bring in a whole bunch of leased maintenance equipment. And what we've been trying to slowly do over the past few years in budgeting is slowly start to have the city purchase equipment through capital, so that then it becomes assets again of the city, instead of paying those expensive lease payments out of operating and then having to repair those out of operating as well.
I think if you can find a way to, eventually tip back and save money on it, I'm good with that. Just curious on that cost. You mentioned that you want to do some more tournaments and event things like that. Are those more profitable than just open tee times?
I think it's a hard question. I mean, I think it depends. When we get a full tournament and you have those people that are paying basically a full green fee, so they're paying for an 18-hole green fee with a cart, they're having some beverages, we're feeding them a meal, yes, that is going to be more profitable. And there are different business models out there that they run leagues every night of the week on both nines, and then they have tournaments Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And there's nothing wrong with that business model. It's basically more like guaranteed income every day, unless the weather doesn't cooperate. But we've always been given guidance to make sure that we have public tee times open. And so I very consciously make the choice when I schedule tournaments to try to only do it like on a Sunday of the weekend or a Saturday, have the other day completely open. It doesn't work every weekend throughout the year, and also when we run our leagues, we only run leagues on one half of the course, so we have the other half of the course open for public. But if I ran just straight tournaments and ran like leagues, yes, we would be more profitable, I feel.
Yeah, let me interject to answer the question. One of the main benefits of an outing, there's two benefits. One, it helps the community. Secondly, it's guaranteed revenue, meaning it's something we can budget and we can plan on, even if it's 20-mile-an-hour winds or a heat index of 108, or it rains, right? They're going to play. It's pre-booked business and guaranteed business. So ultimately, we want to balance that as much as possible for the community, for the bottom line, and managing the golf course like a business.
One, just personal note, twice, maybe 3 times in the last year, I'm a member of Riverside, just being, what's that, clarifying my, transparency is the word. And there's been 2 or 3 times in the last year where there has been a tournament or an event at Riverside that I couldn't golf there. And each time I've gone to JackRabbit and you had an event as well. Is there a way to coordinate to say, and it wasn't just you, the last one, Indian Head had a tournament, Caro had a tournament. I ended up going to Nebraska Dunes, and your course is in way better shape than Nebraska Dunes. No offense, guys. But is there a way to, because what I look at there is, yeah, it's nice to have that guaranteed revenue, but you have an opportunity on those days to get people from other courses that don't get a chance or don't take the chance to play there as often.
Yeah, you make a good point, and what you're experiencing is typical in every community and every golf course post-COVID. The golf boom has created, everybody wants an outing, every business wants an outing, every charity wants an outing. So it's something that's very, very difficult, and again, you kind of have to balance it. To answer your question, we can probably reach out and do our best. We do the financial packets and work with Riverside. We have a relationship with Riverside. Maybe that's something that we can get together with, the other golf professionals, general managers, and try to, mix and match and try to find a way to keep tee sheets open for all golfers at all the facilities. It's a great idea. We'll maybe try to do that.
And there are some weekends throughout the year that, like, Riverside always has this tournament this weekend, and Indian Head always has this one this weekend. And we have a few that have just, we always want to have the first Saturday in June or something. But, our calendar kind of fluctuates each year. We have a lot of returning tournaments, but we have some that may drop off and a lot of new ones coming in. But I wish there was like a grand scheduling calendar for all the courses in town.
Me too.
But there is not, I'm afraid. So.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Nickerson?
Thank you, Sedana, for a very good report. Covers a lot of territory, not only how things are going, but what you're looking for in the future. I appreciate you reminding us that you did not ask for cash infusion this year. That's always nice to remember and to be reminded of. You talked about you want to adjust the fees about 4% or so. What does that put it up to now? I haven't golfed for many, many years. What's that ballpark figure now for a round of 9 or 18 holes with a potential increase?
Like right now, a senior 9-hole weekday round is $24 with tax. The prices are a little bit more expensive on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, just because they're prime time. I don't know. I have my rate sheet. I could grab it. I think an adult 9-hole during the week is $26 with tax. So.
That's at parity pretty much with the competition you're saying, because everybody's raising for the very reasons you talked about. Things are going up, so you have to find your revenue sources somewhere, and that's the players. That's part of it.
Yeah, and quite honestly, because of the process with the municipality and what we do budgetarily and its public input, I can pretty much guarantee everybody's going to set their rates off of what we do, and they're going to go up as much or more based on us, just the way it is.
Exactly.
One other thing to also remember is that I'm sure you're finding throughout the community and lots of places that you go to is that businesses are charging a percentage, like a fee if you're using a card. And that is not something that we currently do at JackRabbit. It may be something that we might have to consider in the future, but when you're comparing prices between courses, it's just important to make sure that you're comparing all the fees and charges at one course to all the fees and charges at another course, because that can make a significant difference.
You're saying some people charge a fee to a player even though they're not using a cart, just kind of a cart fee, or?
No, a card, like a credit card.
Card fee,
Yes,
okay,
yeah,
card.
like
I
a
thought we were talking about
3%. You can pay cash and
yes.
it's this much, and it's 3% more
I
if you
pay
pay
them
with
all
your
the
card.
time. I know what you're talking about, yeah.
I would add one more thing as we talk about rates and increases. Last year, we were in a similar situation. We recommended a similar increase. 0 complaints. We didn't, maybe not 0, but very, very few complaints, which speaks to the value and the product, which kind of dictates customer satisfaction. Obviously, we want to be the value-driven facility, and we don't want to price ourselves out for the general public and the community, because that's why we're here. But because the experience is as good as it is, we feel like we would have the similar feedback with the rate increases 26 into 27 that we experienced previously.
Very good. And then I think a year ago, we were talking about a truck that was in pretty bad shape. Did you get a new truck?
We have a new truck.
Replace the old jalopy and?
Yeah, that was a capital expenditure. We paid for the truck, and then we paid for the snowplow to go with it out of operating.
Okay. And then just a quick question. I just reminded myself, what's a blower for $12,000? What kind of blower?
It's a machine that's used on the course, like to blow off the greens and the tees.
That's $12,000 for one?
Yep, it's a Buffalo blower. It's a pull behind. It's a vital piece of equipment for Joel and the crew for 2 reasons. One, when we get a lot of rain and you've got grass clippings, they will then follow up with the Buffalo blower to get all of the grass clippings off the playing surfaces, so it adds to a better experience. And then in the fall with the trees and the leaves, imperative, just 2 of many, things that they use it for. Important piece, but like anything, like farm equipment, it's through the roof, right? The last 5 years, it's very difficult.
Okay. Then this question's for our city attorney. I'm going to ask you a procedural thing. They introduced some of the people in the audience for the golf course. Is it okay if I ask them to come up if they did not sign up, since they're presenting their budget proposal tonight?
They can bring whoever they want up during their presentation. Since it's a budget presentation, they're not just here as members of the public.
Okay, good. So I'd like to have our new pro guy come up here.
I told him you don't have to get up and speak.
He
so
does
now
get
you're
to
putting
he
him on
does
the
get to
spot,
get up
man.
and speak. If I'm here, now after November, you won't have to worry about this, but up to November, you're probably going to get asked to come up and speak. So I just want to know, introduce yourself again. Tell us what your feelings are about the course. I don't know how long you've been there, but just give us your view of what you've seen so far.
Yeah, I'm Tatum Timbers. I'm from Alliance, Nebraska. I've been a pro for 2 years now, and I've been here for 4 months. So February 28th, I started. It's a lot like home. I'm from a small golf course, so a muni. We had 8,000 people, very flat, not a lot of hills. But what I can say about the course is just how much support we have around us and around in the pro shop, just our staff. This is my 3rd facility now, and I've been with Landscapes, my 2nd facility. I've never been with such a staff where we are so supportive and we come in with such a drive to get what we need done every day. And then when we come in, we also have the support behind with the members and the pass holders to not only, we have to support them with just our public tee times, but things to do as well, other amenities. And that's why I think those tournaments and those other things are really going to help, because we have things such as like those public tee times, but we only have tournaments through our men's and our ladies association. So if we add stuff like those tournaments and the cornhole tournament or these other outings, I think that's really going to boost our support and also help us just within support with the other golf courses around us, because then we're going to have our members and our pass holders and our guests support and collect around us, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. All right, very good. But your overall feeling of the course itself, quality of the course, pretty darn good?
Say that again?
What do you feel about the quality of the course?
Oh, it's great. It's probably, it's awesome. Like, are you talking about like just maintenance side?
Just
What do you
everything.
mean?
There's the
everything.
whole thing.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. I think it's probably bang for your buck. Haven't been to Riverside, but yeah, I mean, it's great. It's going to be a good place anywhere you're at, so. I think
Good.
it's,
All right, well, thank you for your report.
yeah, thank you.
Just one thing I'll throw in here too. I respect the thing of getting us some of those long-term equipment leases. Just having worked in finance for quite a while, I can tell you exactly how the math usually works out in a long-term equipment lease. Makes a lot of sense, and I'd love to see you guys get a year in the black here as well too, and I appreciate everything you're doing out there, so thanks for that. And Chuck, Mr. Housie?
Yes, I have a first question, Sedona, is about rates. So our senior rate this year is $24, so when I go in on Monday morning, it's $24. Now, Indian Head is at $24 for an adult. Now, we're at $26 for an adult, so we're $2 higher than Indian Head is for this year, adult to adult. So what is it for FY27? What are we looking at for rates?
So when I did the rates and brought the proposal before council for fiscal year 26, what I did is I went to Indian Head's website and I went to Caro's website and I saw what their rates were, and I did my best to make our fiscal year 2026 rates the same as what they were running in 2025. So the rate that you're talking about, the $24 at Indian Head, does that include the sales tax? And does that include the 3% fee that's charged on a card? Because when I look on the website, and we've called out there to other area courses, not just Indian Head, their rates do not include sales tax. So I just think it's really important to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. And I think that our rates are, I could be wrong, but I believe our rates are just slightly below what Indian Head is when you factor in even just the sales tax.
Yeah, so I'm an anti-fee guy, so any place that charges me to use the card, I pay cash, because I'm just an anti-fee guy. So, I mean, that's what I would do. My second probably point is maybe more towards Todd, sitting in the back. I have asked for many years about paving the parking lot at JackRabbit. I know that we're talking about re-graveling it, but we just got done repaving Ryder Park. You know, and I think at JackRabbit, we are predicted to have 28,000 and change as far as the number of rounds. So we have a lot more traffic. We have a lot of traffic at JackRabbit. And we're talking about resurfacing the asphalt road coming in, and then you get to this dust pile or whatever it is, and it should be. You know, the city just, we just cited a petting zoo for not having a paved parking. And I'm telling you, the petting zoo is much cleaner than JackRabbit's parking lot. It's like there's no dust, but yet the city turns around and on others will say, you need to pave your parking. Well, this is one we should pave our own parking lot. And Todd knows I've been asking this for quite a few years. I would like to see us come up with the funds to help do that. There's other golf courses, York was one that I was at, that have paved parking lots. It's just a matter of not getting out in the dust pile. You know, there's other ways of doing it, and I just think it's time. This is the 50th anniversary of JackRabbit Run. It's probably time that we do that, Todd.
I guess the only thing, I mean, Todd's welcome to come up and speak. I know that that's a desire of yours, and it's something that we have checked on, and I mean, we visited with Keith about that possibility, and we were basically told that it probably is not the best route to go because that ground underneath, because that's part of the landfill, is still shifting and moving. The landfill basically starts where the road into the parking lot ends. We drag the parking lot at least once a week and sometimes twice a week to try to keep it as smooth as we can. But you can tell after a large rain, the differences and dips, and they're not potholes necessarily, but it is not a level surface. And if it was something that could be done and could stay nice and we wouldn't have to turn around and put a bunch more money in on top of, I've been told it's about $1 million to pave it, I would be all for it because I have the same dust on my car and in the clubhouse and everything. So it's not that we don't want to pave it. I just don't know that it's the best decision fiscally because of the status of the ground that it's on and what could happen.
Yeah, the road in is asphalted, and so I wouldn't even mind asphalt at this point. This morning I was walking around Eagle Scout Lake, and about every 6 feet, that's asphalt, every 6 feet, there's about a 6-inch gap where it does the same thing. It splits and they fill it in, and so, again, it probably wouldn't be the recommended thing to do for a walking trail around Eagle Scout Lake either, but that's what we do. And even though we know that there's going to be cracks, no, I think it's something that we need to think about.
Appreciate that.
Would anyone else like to speak? All right, well, thank you, guys.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next will be the VenuWorks Budget Proposal with Mr. Tarwater.
I guess I probably should start off. We told the golf pro that he wouldn't have to talk. I told Lane over here that he probably wouldn't have to talk tonight, but I'm pretty excited to announce to you that we hired a replacement for Chelsea, our finance director, and his name is Lane Tweehouse, and he's here with us tonight, so I thought this would be a good time to introduce him to everybody. What?
Leave me alone. Leave him alone.
You're going to make him talk?
No guarantees, but we're okay.
Good. It's also pretty interesting as I started working on this budget this year, you get lost in the numbers sometimes. And I have background in the toy industry, so you're always telling toys out a year ahead of time. Working on the budget is the same kind of thing. And I would have to catch myself going, wait, we don't have anything in October. We're talking about October of 27. We're talking about this. So it's been, it really highlighted that I feel like I've known you guys for 5 years plus. It's been a year and a half officially today since we've taken over this role, and we've covered a lot of ground. We're still learning a lot about what we have in the building, what we have as far as supporting the whole facility and bringing product in and talent in, and it's exciting, but it certainly is. We've covered a lot of ground in a year and a half, so I continue to learn. So I'm happy here to be here today to talk to you about our budget and what we're looking at for this year. So. To start with, building rent is obviously a base element. It's slightly up this year, not significantly, but slightly up. That's partially due to, we do co-pros with some talent, with some promoters and things like that. Well, with a co-pro, we throw in all the expenses together, and then we split the profits coming out, and they take all the risk, and we have a split of 70-30%. So that can sometimes affect what our building rent actually looks like, because that co-pro rent gets thrown into the bucket of expenses that we then share. Contractually obligated revenue is up, and our first stub year was approximately 150 grand in that level. But this year I'm forecasting that we'll be at about 500 grand in contractually obligated revenue. That includes sponsorships, suites. We've doubled the suites rate, the rates that we've been able to charge for suites since taking over. But that continues to move upward, and that's one we want to keep moving upward, because it's typically those areas are roughly 90 to 99% profit margin areas, so they're a good area to keep moving the needle. Reimbursed event expenses at 400,000. Food and beverage revenue is up again at 1.19, and ticket revenues are up a little bit, but at about $500,000 for total revenues of about $2.9 million for our projected 27. Expenses, these are expected expenses with cost of goods sold roughly at $377,000. Personnel costs are almost the same as they are predicted for 2026 at $1.4 million. General administrative costs, this is an area I think that we've been good at, trying to keep our costs low. That's predicted to be about $10,000 lower than what it was last year. Our occupancy costs, this is an area that my ops team at corporate scratched their head about. They said, usually your occupancy costs don't go down each year. And that's a true statement. They don't. But when we took it over, a lot of this is, the preventive maintenance contracts and such like that. We found some overlaps in certain places. We've kind of renegotiated some of those deals. We found some that aren't quite as relevant now as what they were before. So we actually are in a position where we think with that occupancy cost should be reduced a little bit this year. Services and operational costs at $270,000. Event expenses are at $668,000, and those expenses should continue to go up with the more events that we get. They should always be going up. And our food and beverage expenses at $175,000 for a total expense of roughly $3 million. And in summary form, our revenues are about 2.9 with expenses at about 3.5. So we're right there at that $500,000, coming up short as far as self-sustaining our own building. You add in the hotel occupancy tax, and this budget is targeted to come in at about $655 over. For what it's worth, this year it looks like we're trending to be on track budget-wise. Our first stub year, we had to ask for that $148,000. It looks like this year we might be right where we need to be and taking that first step to not have to ask for any additional dollars, and hopefully next year we can move that needle even further down the line. So what I've done here on this last two sheets is just to give you a little bit of a year-over-year comparison so you have some perspective on what our budget looks like and where it's been. I am real proud that we continue to hold personnel expense at that level. We still have a couple FTEs that we haven't hired, one being a marketing director, which is challenging, but we're still working on that. You can see where the occupancy expense has gone up in our budget last year, and it'll drop down a little bit this year after settling into it. And really, there's just some real key takeaways there, I think, that are, you'll see the event expenses on line 5. Those event expenses go up pretty significantly, but with every event that we have, those will always go up. So as long as those numbers are going up, all the other revenues should follow along just the same way. And that's where we're at there.
Mr. Vavicek, would you like to speak again?
Briefly. No, without running the risk of wearing out my welcome, and maybe I've already done that, but nonetheless, I would just like to point out a perspective because to try to estimate what an event center would do a year from now based on not knowing attendance, not knowing any number of things, but when you look back here a few years ago, no one anticipated unknown circumstances like COVID and how that would impact attendance and so forth. So, I just marvel once again at the projection here of the event center because it just shows how important it is to our community. The reason I bring up perspective, and some of you have been on council long before I was in your chairs, but I don't think the city ever had a presentation that I can recollect about what the Heartland Event Center would do under the previous management. We just kind of like entrusted that role to that stalwart of our community, but this is really good. This is good for people to know. Also, if you don't have a plan, you don't know what you're going to build on for success. So I would just commend, VenuWorks for their investment here and expertise to present a budget that people can understand. So once again, I think this is a good measurement for government to know of what it hopes to achieve, because for many years we really didn't know, we just kind of hoped. So that's my comment with your understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hazy?
Thank you, Ryan. So Kyler, my question, the total expense on the second slide you have, the total expense you have is at $3 million, the two pages before. Go back 2 pages.
This one here. That one?
One more before.
What's that?
One more, or before that one, the one before that one.
That one.
Yes, so the total expenses on the bottom of that slide say 3 million and change. Now go to the next slide. The total expenses say 3,456,000. What's the difference between the expenses between those two slides? Besides $387,000.
So we'd normally look at Chelsea.
It's not that slide, it's the.
Yeah, I'm going to look because I think I have my answer in here.
Anyway, it just stuck out, and I don't know what the real expense is, because I was expecting that 500,000 in funding to go down because of the Big Iron Event Center revenue that's coming up in this, I realize it's going to be a little watered down with the signage, the 50,000 for the signage. But anyway, again, like Mayor Vavicek said, we don't really know. Right now we are predicting, we are projecting, but yeah, so if you can find out that difference, let me know.
And I remember seeing that, and I looked at it. I don't think it's a typo. I think I have lost track of where that is. But
okay. One of the things I would want to explain is the difference when, for the 20 years that Fauner Park had the management of the Heartland Event Center, they didn't come to us to get any money. They weren't in our budget. So for 20 years, we didn't come up with any money to give them, and that's why there was no budget presentation like this. It was a different format. The city council did have reps on the Heartland Event Center board. I know that Mayor Steele has been on there for a time. I have been on there for a time. And so we did have reps, and we did have an annual audit from Fauner that came to the city. So I think, we were engaged with financial numbers. We do know what they were. We were on the board. We saw every success, every challenge. So I think we were engaged, but they didn't do it in the budget format because they didn't come in asking for any money. So that was why yours is unique at this time around with VenuWorks. So I did want to mention that is different. Thank you, Kyler.
Yes, and I would just say the only thing that's different is, fortunately, like I say, I believe we're going to hit our budget this year, so we won't be asking for money. And the $500,000 that we're getting from the occupancy tax is the same money that Fauner was receiving prior to us taking over. So I feel like we're in good position to get there too.
Mr. Nickerson, or Pat, did you have something you want to say first?
Yeah, so I just want to make this clear. So the Fauner Park management did get the occupation tax, but they didn't get anything else more than that. So at the time, probably $350 or whatever the occupation tax was at that time, that's what they received. This contract is different. So,
Mitch?
Thank you, Kyler. It is good to have a plan, and that kind of helps you know as each month goes by, how are we going? And, where do we want to focus? And again, some of those things are out of your control, but at least you have an idea of what you're trying to accomplish. The food and beverage seems to be a big part of your organization, and you feel comfortable with those based on a year behind you as far as the amount of revenue that you're seeing from that?
Yes, and more so every day. It's a big part of the income that you get from an event center is the food and beverage. People think you make a lot of money when you bring in a Hank Williams Jr., but typically the money is fairly small in the grand scheme of things for the actual concert. Where you make your money back is the food and beverage and other things that go along with that. We hired a girl named Liz Johnston to be our food and beverage director. She's been outstanding. Our inventory was out of control. We were over ordering. We had product waste because lettuce only lasts so long. She's done a great job of digging into that and really understanding where our waste has been. If you'll notice, all of our grab-and-go coolers now, you'll see most of them are about half filled instead of fully filled. So as before, we'd fill the whole coolers, and then if you didn't sell it in the right amount of time, it'd go bad, and you'd have to send it back, or it'd be a loss. She's done a really good job of digging into understanding what those numbers really need to look like by event, but in general overall. And a good example is the upcoming State Fair. We planned on State Fair being a significant contributor to our food and beverage revenues last year. It was not. It was the opposite. It's actually, there's just so much food out there to eat. They're not coming in the building to get a hamburger. They're eating the corn dog instead. So learning that and the time that we've put in over the last year and a half, learning some of those elements, not to plan for a big windfall from the State Fair and planning for these other concerts that we know. Hairball, for example, we're going to sell a lot of beer for Hairball. I mean, we've got that history now, so we kind of know what's coming based on what the concert demographic is. So she's done a great job of getting our food and beverage team firmed up with some of those things that were really critical, right down to even a program called Back Office that literally lists the amount of pepper that you use in every recipe that she uses. So she has really dug it down to a level to where we're going to just get better. Next year will be even better. She's still learning, but she certainly helped us improve.
That's pretty impressive, and I really like that level of detail and people that are into that. That's important for managing your business properly. I appreciate that. Funnel cakes and corn dogs is my favorite at the State Fair, so that's why I'm not going to eat anything else. That's my go-to. This is just a question of overall operation, and I don't expect you to get into nitty-gritty, but I just kind of like to know, in general, you've got the Siege now, which is part of the thing, and there's so many games that will be played there. And how does that work when somebody has an event like a football game and there's X number of dollars for tickets. I'm assuming they have to rent the facility. And then there's some kind of profit that you hope to get out of that. How's it, based on sales of tickets or whatever, how does that kind of shake out just roughly at the 10,000-foot level?
It's, every contract is different. For the football, because they're a tenant team usually gets a little reduced rate, so I charge them $5,000 per game is what they pay for that. We make the money on the food and beverage. We don't split that with the team, so really a lot of our money comes from the rental rate and the food and beverage that goes along with it. Everything else that they do from their suite sales, their floor suite sales, and their promos and the giveaways with the footballs and any kind of signatures, that's all their money. So it really is more of a rental program, more so than an actual co-pro or a combined effort.
Okay. And then how's the chiller situation? I know that was a big thing hanging out. How's that going?
It's excellent. They had to, this big old chiller they brought in, they had to take it apart and put it into 3 pieces to actually move it inside the room. So it was fully assembled. They came in, disassembled it, used a floor engine hoist to take each part, move it inside the building. Then when we got in there, the ceilings in certain places weren't high enough, so they had to cut out certain pipes and bring in new piping. All that being said, it sounds crazy and hectic. The good news is by July 7th, we should have the new air conditioner up and running. It was targeted to be June 22nd. They hit a few snags with just sizing that they had to repipe some things, but it looks like July 7th is the target for when we should have all the new AC in.
Sure. All right, well, that's good news for everybody. All right, thank you.
Mr. Sheard?
Thank you. Year and a half, put on a couple events.
Had a couple.
Have you learned about what events do better and some that probably didn't do as good as maybe you thought, that maybe it's going to change the way you book things?
Yes, and I think I'm learning every event. I'm surprised at certain things. Kansas only sold 1,200 tickets. That was a great concert for a band that's going out, and it was probably one of the more elegant rock and roll concerts you'd ever go to. The instrumentals are great, but 1,200 was that number, and it should have been a little stronger in my opinion. The same with Dwight Yoakam and ZZ Top. I think they tabled out at 3,100, and we had it built for 5,000. So how we didn't fill the arena for ZZ Top and Dwight Yoakam that's a question mark. And Mae Estes was in that lineup too, I believe, or maybe that's a different concert. No, that was for Ian Munsick. So we're learning there things that I thought would be a for sure home run. We call it a triple, not a home run. So I'm learning some of those things are a little surprising, and I don't think I'm done learning. I know everyone's a little bit surprising. I was real surprising to see the band Ian Munsick. I'd never heard of that person before I started talking to them about coming in and playing at our arena. I'm telling you, write that boy's name down. This guy, before he came to our building, he didn't have one hit on the radio. His only exposure has been just concerts and social media. And if you look him up, he's a goofball. But he is an entertainer to the nth degree. Now he's got a radio hit, so you're going to see this guy go like this. This was the first concert that we had that the 20-something crowd and 30-something crowd was there and active in our building. I haven't done another show that brought in that crowd. Ian Munsick did, and it was one that wasn't on my radar. So what it did was shift my mind going, okay, there's some other up-and-comers right now that with the whole new world of being, social media driven, he's a good example of, he came up through social media. And he continues to do that. So I think what it's really doing is changing my focus on just focusing on promoters only, and potentially going after some of these up-and-comers in a different way. But he was a good example. It was great to see it in the building. Great to see those kids running up to the stage.
It was, I've talked to you a little bit in chambers and just offline. ZZ Top, I'm with you. That was an amazing show.
It was.
It was just so entertaining. But I'd say a big hit you had was a Lindsey Sterling that, I don't know if that was a sellout, but the place was packed.
It was pretty close.
Fantastic night for Grand Island when we have that. Something I don't know that you've tapped into, or if you have, I haven't seen it, and you and I talked about this, is more of that Hispanic market and some of those opportunities. Is there a future for that? Do you have any updates on some of the things that might be a little different in that regard?
There is. I don't have a new update other than I was working pretty heavily on this. I started off with a local promoter and ended up with a promoter out of Lincoln that specializes in the Latino market. And we had put together, and this was through the local promoter and this guy, we were working on something that we were going to call La Isla Music Festival. And it was 3 major bands, major Latino bands that were going to come in. And this happened just about the time ICE was going on. And several of those bands, 2 of those bands said, no, we're not coming over right now. We're just going to sit back and hang tight. So since that happened, I pretty much put the brakes on it, not out of any reason other than it just hasn't been at the top of the priority list. But we're back to that. One thing I talked to Liz with just 2 weeks ago was getting our a concession stand set up that is Spanish speaking. So right now, there's no Spanish verbiage anywhere in the building. So if you really don't know English at all and you go up, you don't even know how to order a hot dog necessarily. That needs to change regardless of what we bring into the building, and we're working on that now. So some of those little subtle changes, like going cashless versus cash, some of those little subtle changes are things I've had the luxury of being able to work on now, more so than just events. But yeah, it is a driving goal for me to make sure that happens. It's a market that they'll fill the building with the right act. So that and that 20, 30-something crowd are 2 areas that we can really improve on.
And I know you probably have some big sports things coming up, like the volleyball was this big. You know, how big is a night like the volleyball night was? How big is that? When you see that place filled, I'm asking for the financial, like, I know it's the same rent probably, but literally dollars, what does a night like that mean to your budget?
It's significant. And those are some of those, it's like the Cornhusker Chaos Demolition Derby. That's the hardest week of our lives in our industry, in our building. But the money that it brings in is so massively strong compared to what other one-night events are. It's just, you're talking 6 figures instead of hoping to get 5 figures on something, low 5 figures. Love volleyball is the same. Love is obviously one that it changes the numbers pretty significantly. But also I don't want to discount other things like Fire School and Cheer and Dance and Heartland Hoops. Those are typically the best profit centers for our building because we're not having to write a check for $150,000 for Hank Williams to come sing. So we're instantly in the hole when we have talent come in, which is what makes it so difficult to make good money on a concert. So concert, in my opinion, really is there to supplement the event center and really serve the community, but that's not where we're making our dollars. We're making our dollars really on truly those base level community events that really keep us active. So it's a balance. You need both. And another thing I mentioned on here was that contractually obligated income. Without the right names, without ZZ Top, without Dwight Yoakam, I can't go get a sponsor. So if there's no building, if there's none of the flash, the sponsors don't want to pay for that. So it's a balance. You've got to have both. You've got to have all of it to run the building, but they all feed together, and we're getting a pretty good handle on how to do that.
The last question I have is because it's in my world a little bit, a marketing director. Are we not offering enough money to get a good candidate?
I don't know that that's necessarily it.
Okay.
But I don't know that. Maybe. If I found the right candidate, I would probably come beg and plead and fight to try to up the money where we need it to be. I think it's just it's an interesting niche, and I can't put my finger on it, Jack, and that's actually something I'd love to get your feedback on, because in most places, when you list a marketing job, a marketing sales job, you're getting 200 resumes day one. That's a coveted job. Here, it doesn't seem to be for some reason. So I don't know if it's just that our unemployment's so low, everybody has a job and they're all working and happy, or if it's just not the venue that they really are interested in. But it's been an unusual anomaly. And I don't know how much of that is my fault too, because I can kind of handle some of those marketing things. So if I'm not finding the right one, I can set that priority aside and handle what I need to, and then come back to that when I have time. So some of that could be on me. But we certainly haven't got the resumes that we need.
Well, you know how I feel that marketing pays for itself to help all of these events get more people to come and buy beer and buy hot dogs. So
exactly right. That's probably one of I would take that personally and say that's probably my shortcoming more than anything else.
We'll work on it, huh?
Yeah.
Mr. Hazy?
Thank you, Ryan. I wanted to point out one thing when I mentioned Funner Park. Now, they submitted an annual audit, and the most misunderstood part, if you ever look at their finances, by almost everyone who has ever read them, is that the city took out a note to build the facility to start with, and the county took out a note to build the facility to start with. And so, I'll just say $20-some million went to build this facility to start with. Funner Park comes in, but accounting-wise, when they made their payment, it looks like revenue on the Heartland Event Center balance sheet. So when it comes in, it looks like revenue. And they didn't see a dime. But there's a $500,000 in there every year when the county would make their bond payment, when the city would make their bond payment. It looked like revenue. And so everyone would look and say, geez, you're making a ton of money. And they're like, I'm not even seeing that at all. And so it was one of the most misunderstood facts by non-financial people trying to read a financial document and understand it. And so they worked on a shoestring the same as you are. They're trying to get to that break-even level. I mean, this is the same effort to try to bring in great things to the community, and I appreciate what you're doing, Kyler.
Kyler, you've seen me at a lot of events over there. I try and check a lot of things out. I've been trying to pay attention a lot as you guys have been there last year and a half. And I think you guys have learned a lot too. And I've seen a lot of things evolve over my time there. The type of events I've seen come in your second year versus the first year, I think has been quite a bit of change. Had the Love volleyball game over there. That was massive, sold out. I heard nothing but positive feedback all over town. And the economic impact of things like that, kind of, I think what Jack was talking about earlier, is pretty massive. I went downtown for dinner that night. Wow, it was packed. It was a line to get in about anywhere. You could feel it all over there. And the other thing I noticed, like the Cornhusker Chaos Demo Derby, I went down to that one night. And, it wasn't sold out, but it had a lot of people there still. And that was a multi-day event. And I'm noticing some of these other multi-day events, those have a big impact in hotels as well. And it seems like you guys are kind of capturing a little bit more of those than what we used to have too. And it sounds like there's even more coming up later this year too. Curious to see how some of those pan out. I've noticed a lot of other just kind of smaller operational improvements too. If you have a sold out event, you might have a lot more security. If you have a smaller event, you're kind of, segregating that down to one area, finding some efficiencies there. I see you guys went to a cashless system as well, and I think there's a lot of other efficiencies and safeguards with that too. A lot of other peers are doing that. And I kind of noticed these little improvements here or there. It might not get much of attention, but it really kind of compounds over time of what you're doing. I look forward to see what you're doing. Also, I think now that you guys have some experience, you're seeing patterns of consumer behavior for some of these events. And you're kind of noticing, hey, this type of concession or this type of concession, you're starting to build that history now. I suppose that's making it a little bit easier for you to help budget a little better as well.
It does until I get lost in the years. And I have to rethink it. But yeah, it certainly helped. It's helping us dial in.
A little bit. And then I know there's a lot of improvements there. Obviously the chiller, I've been at some of these events and man, it got a little bit kind of muggy in there at the temp one. So I'm really glad that's going to be going on up there. There's a lot of things I kind of hear in town about the sound system. I mean, are there still some things that need to be adjusted with that too, or would that have a big impact? Or
There are, and there are several items that have already been approved and we're working on from the lighting system. We'll have the LED experiential lighting, which once again doesn't seem like a big deal. You think of lights as just lights, but in an arena, the experiential lighting changes everything. And one of the better examples I can say is, for breast cancer awareness, we had an ice rink in Topeka and we had those experiential lighting. Well, you can turn the whole building pink. And it's not just like one area. It looks like the entire place, the ice and everything is pink. So those things really do add to the experience. They add to when a promoter finds out we have experiential lighting versus just regular metal halide that we do, it changes their opinion. Oh, you're a little bit updated. It's not just a cattle barn to a degree. I've heard that kind of comment before. So yeah, those little subtle changes are on the way. We're working on them now. The sound system will help primarily with spoken language like this. For Harlem Globetrotters, it's an actual sporting event, but there's a whole lot of spoken language going on. This 4-H national shooting event that we just had on the entire campus, for that, they do all the awards ceremony in the Heartland Events, the Big Iron Event Center, and they do that right there, and that will really help a lot just instantly once we get that sound system upgraded.
That's how I noticed too, is even with athletic events, there's still an announcer in there, like the Love volleyball game or the Siege football. And by the way, if you haven't seen that, I mean, it's a pretty interesting game, the Siege football. They're undefeated, and there's some hard hits out there. I think a couple of people had a player in their lap over the wall. It's really nice to see the lifeblood kind of flow back in there. And I'm seeing more events, I think, than average out there as well, and I hope you keep moving forward too. So, would anyone else like to speak on this? Mitch?
One more important question. This is for Chuck Hawsey. in your cashless system, are you charging a fee for the credit card?
In the box office, I'm going to ask Chelsea, can I ask Chelsea that? We charge it in the box office, do we charge a credit card fee? I believe we do, but we charge it to the promoter typically, correct?
I've never spoke on this before. No, not in the box office.
So we're not charging the consumer, but we are writing, I believe we charge it back to the promoter. I think we have a fee back to the promoter. So we're not affecting the consumer.
But for the concessions, when we charge our concessions, are you charging a fee for that, or is it, that's the price?
I don't believe we are.
All right, just want to make sure that Chuck would buy a hot dog or Coke when he's there. Otherwise, he's not going to buy it.
To that end, too, I was talking to Brad Bauer at Pinnacle Bank, and he made the move to cashless there, or they made the move there. And he said, best move they ever made. He said, it's a good decision, but he said, you want to look into a reverse ATM. That's where somebody that has cash can put it in, they get a card out so they can go buy something. Which sounds to me crazy to me, but after having 4-H in the building this week, you could see there were a lot of kids that basically, mom or dad said, here's $100 for the week, have fun, because there was a lot of cash that we missed out on, honestly. So I thought, yep, we're going to have to get a reverse ATM for those guys. We still had some good sales, but there was definitely, we lost some sales at that particular event, because there was a bunch of youth kids that parents had given them some cash for the trip.
Sure. So. All right, well, I want Chuck to buy a hot dog. I just want him to.
All right, any other questions? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Everybody.